Greetings. This is the third video of the theory of positivity. The first two dealt with the physics of the idea. This deals with the psychology, politics, and economics of the resistance to this physics. But I want to start at the beginning. I do shamanic work, and I'd like to start there. So, all natural life seeks positive experience and resists negative, and this drives natural evolution. Most of the life-friendly environments that remained natural for long periods of time became relative paradise to the critters who adapted to them, including us human critters. The most highly evolved humans were those who experienced profoundly positive feelings and connections out of everyday natural circumstances. To hear eternity in the wind, to see infinity in the stars, to taste love in the meals shared among family and tribe, to feel the life energy flowing through your body, to be immersed in family love and natural feelings of well-being most of the time, to perceive our innumerable connections with all life and the entire universe during sacred trance ceremonies, to develop post-euphoric associations as a result of those ceremonies. In other words, to get high, feeling the sun on your face and the earth beneath your feet. To feel a deep sacredness, seeing a young mother suckle her newborn. To smile and laugh and sing and dance, easily and often, surrounded by family and tribe. And here's a shamanic experience. To dream visit the critters in your surrounding forest during post-coital trance. To know without doubt that you are living a sacred life in a sacred place that feels like paradise most of the time. The life-filled ancient forest, resting upon the life-sustaining Mother Earth, thriving beneath the life-enhancing Father Sun, awestruck at the endless wonder of star and sky, with the great mysterious spirit of all things, everywhere and always, keeping watch. These were common, non-addictive, highly positive experiences of common tribal folks living free with nature rather than slaving to improve nature. What a scam that turned out to be. Improving nature has always been the excuse for the slavery, not the reason. Those easy-living, contented, psychic, simple, sacred, often blissful, wonder-loving peoples were long ago demonized and wiped out by vicious military empires, and all of us post-natural peoples have been de-evolving ever since, internalizing and adapting to our constricted military environments, while simultaneously becoming increasingly fearful of and maladapted to free and natural environments. Not the same. So the theory of positivity is not about having a positive attitude in a poisoned, suffering world which is in fact run by ingenious psychopaths. That is called dissociation, and it is a collective mental illness sponsored by those same psychopaths. The theory of positivity is about the healthy world run by concerned leaders, which is possible. It is within the realm of physical possibility if we all together grow the collective courage to face reality as it actually is, to face exactly who and what the people running this world are. So the first two positivity videos corrected this false science, action versus opposite reaction, or more precisely this incomplete science labeling itself as complete, which was born out of the de-evolution. So this third video hopes to correct the psychology behind this incomplete science and the resulting suppression of all knowledge and all belief and all experience which does not support and justify and normalize and even deify traditional, militarized, rich versus poor culture. Rich versus poor, heaven versus hell, spiritual versus physical, predator versus prey, male versus female, us versus them, progress versus nature, empire versus autonomy, strength versus compassion, white versus black, positive versus negative, war. All rich versus poor cultures are rooted in opposition, including their sciences. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. Okay, that statement is a military ideology as much as a scientific observation. It says every action. It implies very clearly that all relationships are opposites, and that all opposites are always in balance, that positive and negative are always equal. So what is the history behind this nonsense? An ancient, slave-breeding, consciousness-constricting trick of military empires was to present and teach all relationships as opposites. Everything is contradiction. The relationship between male and female, which loosely corresponds to the relationship between physical and spiritual, time and space, sex and love, and so on, that relationship was taught as being identical to the relationship between positive and negative, between good and evil, between joy and pain. Opposites. All relationships were opposites. They even had symbols. Circle for female and straight line for male. These yin-yang symbols are very ancient and very well known. This was taken very seriously back in the day and is still taken seriously in some cults. Aleister Crowley wrote about this, and it represents one of the many esoteric cosmologies absorbed and militarized by the ancient type cults that continue to influence world events covertly. According to them, these are opposites. Positive and negative, good and evil, joy and pain, etc. And guess which one corresponds to the negative? To evil. Guess which one is pain? The female, of course, the woe man. Woe is me. It's a woe man. Woe is me, woe man. In other words, pain man, negative man. There's man positive and there's woe man negative, opposites. Or how about this? Hell, oh. Hell, oh there, woe man. Hell, oh. So how did halo, another circle, morph into hell, oh? And of all the possible greetings available, when did hell, oh become the standard? Hell, oh. Hell, oh. AT&T, hell, oh. Is this the pedo, nature demonizing, woman childizing cult of eternal warfare? Hell, oh. Bad acting. So hell, oh, woe man. These words have no power. They are just little signatures of the war cult that's been influencing events from behind the scenes for a very long time, keeping everything in opposition to promote war, which supports rich versus poor culture. So where did this all begin? Where did this all come from? In ancient military empires, females were demonized to suppress the power of their compassion because compassion has little value in a successful empire. In addition, the vast majority of tribal peoples being slaughtered and displaced and enslaved were very dependent on their Mother Earth, and the conquerors needed to replace Mother Earth dependency with Father Empire loyalty. So Mother Earth and her loving family were demonized, trivialized, brutalized, and marginalized at the same time that Father Empire was being deified, glorified, justified, and normalized. The more brutal became the empire, the more prideful became its warriors. Feminine cosmology naturally opposes the war culture of empire, and females had little value to the empire other than to breed soldiers and slaves. That is where it all came from, Adam and Eve. In our modern military empires, females are highly valued because they become soldiers and slaves. Progress. Peace and war are opposites, ecstasy and agony are opposites, rich and poor, heaven and hell, journalism and propaganda, happiness and misery, health and sickness, etc., all opposites, one positive and one negative. But male and female, dad and mom, physical and spiritual, oxygen and hydrogen, inertia and gravity, time and space, current and voltage. How about sun and earth? Are they opposites? My Audi and her innie? These are not opposites. These are complements. These are all lovers in love. Partners in the creative co-opposition which begets consciousness, and the attractive cooperation which maintains consciousness, and the cosmos, and the family. Now, creative co-opposition was defined and explored in the previous videos. What is attractive cooperation? What holds together and maintains the solar system? Attractive cooperation between the planets, between gravity and inertia, voltage and reactance, and so on. LOVE, baby. Our complex biologies are extrapolations of the simple foundations from which we arose, or arise. This universe is a huge family of relationships. Some are opposites, some are complements, some are neither of those, and so on. All of these complementary creative partners are positive. None of them are negative. The actions and reactions that take place between these partners are all generally positive, not negative. Nothing equal and opposite going on there. In nature, the physical and spiritual, material and ethereal are both sacred and both good, as are the masculine and feminine and all the other natural creative partners in and of our universe. So this insanity, this inability to differentiate opposites from complements, is the traditional militarized fundamentalist reality which gave birth to our current action versus opposite reaction cosmology. But upon close examination, we discovered that this worldview is of a predator. Oh, this is the worldview of a predator. Any predator will see reality in terms of opposites. Predator versus prey, me versus you, us versus them, all opposites. And this extrapolation of opposites grows out of that predatory mindset. Predator versus prey is the foundation of their entire reality, and this dictates how they perceive reality. Every action accompanied by an equal and opposite reaction. I chase, you run. I stalk, you fear. I live, you die. I win, you lose. I become more, you become less, and so on. Predation, predators, war, men. Most men, including myself, feel shame on a very foundational level when we are not thinking like predators. That's why I love boxing so much. My favorite spectator sport, I'm a big fan. Nothing more fun than watching two millionaires beat hell out of each other. I love it. Okay, so it's the avoidance of that deep-rooted shame, the shame of not being a successful predator, which prevents us men from seeing all of nature, including in physics, as it actually is. We only acknowledge those aspects of reality which do not cause us pain to acknowledge, and we design our technology out of that incomplete awareness. Right? Action versus opposite reaction is a male ego perspective. Energy cannot be created or destroyed, same thing, because it only applies to inertia. Where do we see inertia? A football, a spear, a bullet, a hammer, a NASCAR race. Male ego symbols. Action versus opposite reaction applies only to inertia. It's all male ego perspective, ignoring or simply not perceiving the feminine aspects of physics, which are explored in the first two videos, although not in that context. And of course, this incomplete opposition-based science supports rich versus poor culture, and so it is naturally sponsored by the wealthy beneficiaries of that culture. But tell me something. What do you call predators who prey on their own kind? You call them cannibals. The kinds of predators that prey on this planet by imagining themselves to be superior. So these types of normal, in quotes, predators feel distant affinity with each other. They form secret alliances to trade benefits, protections, and so forth. And this produces an us versus them mentality in addition to their me versus you mentality, still perceiving relationships in general as opposites. Not much romance going on in these psychotic type mentalities. So this could sort of represent the association patterns of an individual predator. You know, pedophile, military invader, slave owner, CEO in some cases, whatever. And of course it is all opposites, with the predator in the positive position and the prey in the negative position, a universe of opposites. Same again, except now it depicts the collective mindset of a military occupation, us versus them. In time, this becomes the reality of the occupying soldiers who are relentlessly propagandized in this direction from their superiors, and who collectively then solidify this attitude to themselves because of all that propaganda and also because of all the resistance and hatred they endure from the defeated local population who continue to fight back in spite of overwhelming odds. This is why so many kids commit suicide in the prime of their lives when they return home from our occupied nations in the Middle East. So the other half of this destructive science not only implies that all relationships are opposites, but states directly that there is always an equal balance between those opposites, between negative and positive, between action and reaction, and so on, that each balances the other at all times, and this is how reality works. This is how reality is. Energy cannot be created, it can only be transformed in equal measure from one body to another, and so on. This is the same reality that 99% of us assume because it is all we have ever perceived in our militarized, rich versus poor environment. The apparent equal balance between negative and positive is another ancient despotic military fabrication. If there is peace, there must be war. If there is progress, there must be slavery. If there is heaven, there must be hell. If we're safe over here, there must be conflict over there. If there's ecstasy, there must be agony. If there's affluence, there must be poverty. If there's technology, there must be pollution. If you gain something here, you must lose something there. Everything is a trade-off. All trade-offs are equal, and they all add up to zero. In other words, death with a capital D. This is the foundation of our Holy Roman physics, and in fact, our Holy Roman culture. The positive equals negative association is fully integrated into the symbol of the crucifix. For instance, love equals torture. The severity of torture accepted equals the degree of divine love expressed. The intensity of suffering equals the intensity of love. Intense suffering is proof of divine love, and so on. Regular suffering is regular love, but 3 days of horrific torture is sacred and divine love. The crucifix also goes beyond the suggestion that the amount of positive is equal to the amount of negative. It directly associates both extremes into one and the same symbol. The physical crucifix itself is simply a statue of a man tortured to death. The divine love aspect is a learned belief attached to the torture symbol. Now, the crucifixion-resurrection drama is a direct allegory to a woman's labor-birth drama, as were many ancient initiation rites. Right? Jesus endured hours of horrendous pain, then finally expelled his newborn soul out of his body, at which time the pain was finally over. The newborn was lifted up. There were then 3 days of isolation and recovery, followed by visits to friends to show off the newborn, and so on. Right? Ancient shamanic initiation, labor and birth allegory. When the faithful look at a crucifix, they are seeing, among other aspects, the sleeping newborn after the agonizing labor, the blessed relief after the painful event, the peace after the war, the peaceful heaven after the painful life, the blissful heaven after the cruel earth, and so on. In other words, the positive after the negative is finally over. The artificial association between natural labor pains and sadistic military torture, which superimpose the innocence of a newborn baby Jesus, onto the torture of a rebellious adult, translated into the horrific torture, slaughter, and enslavement of millions of tribal peoples over several centuries at the hands of the Holy Roman Empire, hiding behind their crucifix religion, a religion which had long since been co-opted and inverted into the opposite of its original intention. What was that original intention? The golden rule: other equals self, equality between people, not equality between love and torture. Every mother is my mother. Every father is my father. Every daughter is my daughter. Every son is my son. Every brother is my brother. Every sister is my sister. Every grandma is my grandma. Every grandpa is my grandpa. Every cousin is my cousin. Every uncle is my uncle. Every auntie is my auntie. Every race is my race. Every family is my family. Every tear, every cry, every laugh, every hope, every dream, every nightmare, every wish, every promise, every struggle, every success, every failure, every embrace, every song, every birth, every death, mine, yours, ours. We are all in this together. We are all one race. We are all one tribe. We are all one family, made of many families, striving together on our sacred Mother Earth. This includes families that fly, and families that crawl, and families that swim, and slink, and climb, and run, and chase. We are all relatives. As we do to others, we do to ourselves. As we do to the earth, we do to ourselves. As we do to the children, we do to ourselves. This is the original Christian religion. No heathens to torture, no fornicators to burn alive, only relatives to treat as family. So predation is one aspect of this fallacy. Addiction is the other. All positive experience that comes from an addiction of any sort will necessarily be accompanied by a negative after effect. All addictive actions produce equal and opposite reactions. That's a fact. Get drunk, positive. Have a hangover, negative. Equal and opposite. Shoot heroin, go through withdrawal, action, reaction. Hooked on gambling, lose all your money. Hooked on fantasy, can't succeed in reality. Hooked on credit cards, go bankrupt. Hooked on pornography, can't fall in love. Hooked on your vibrator, can't find a good man. These are all addictions for millions of people. Success addiction, alcoholic, workaholic, churchaholic, loss of individual self, action, equal and opposite reaction. Adrenaline junkie, can't connect spiritually. Addicted to power, become increasingly paranoid. Action, equal and opposite reaction. Addicted to money, become increasingly dishonest, especially with yourself. Addicted to supremacy, become increasingly subhuman. Action, equal and opposite reaction. These are all addictions. For every addictive action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. Supremacy, subhuman. Supremacy, subhuman. Addiction. Don't be addicted. Don't be addicted. Most of us endure at least one addiction just to have some fun in life. We are surrounded by addictions and the results of addictions, and this lends reality to this false science. Makes it seem obvious when in fact it is very incomplete. An incomplete cosmology on all levels of reality. This is a slave cosmology created by tyrants long ago. The reason this is important is because this unconscious fundamentalist assumption, boy, that's a tongue tweezer, unconscious fundamentalist assumption, which has been bred into most of us post-natural humanoids, this is our collective excuse for justifying and participating in war, pollution, poverty, injustice, starvation, deforestation, drudgery at work, and so on. We assume that all those negatives are inevitable and are therefore impossible to avoid. We even associate maturity with acceptance of these inevitable realities. This absolutely false belief robs us of our power and our willingness to do something about anything real. If we address the real causes of problems, we are being immature and unrealistic. We are being wacko conspiracy snowflakes. Absolute nonsense. The belief that something negative necessarily accompanies something positive is nonsense, is evil, is rooted in predation and addiction, and is a complete reversal of how nature actually works. The fact is, in nature, objectively, scientifically, inevitably, positive always becomes greater than negative. And even more profound than this, positivity accumulates over time as negativity remains more or less constant. Now, this may not be your life. It certainly has not been mine. However, this is how nature works. This is how evolution works. This is, in fact, how physics works. This was the universe created by God and Goddess, Dad and Mom, the big family in the sky, before a few deviant humans developed our militarized slave system of rich and poor, upon which our entire culture, including our sciences, including our religions, including even our post-natural de-evolution, is based. We live on a planet which has received billions of watts of absolutely free energy from the sun every single day for the past several billion years, energy which is never given back or exchanged in any way, in a continuous state of positive is greater than negative, and yet us peasants have been taught and bred to assume that there is an unavoidable balance between negative and positive, that everything is an equal trade-off. Our entire culture, including all of our technologies, has been designed out of this false axiom, and we have biologically adapted our nervous systems to this deviant design over the millennia. Ever since the pyramids, I'm guessing. So this is the objective reality that most of us are hardwired to assume and perceive. But it is not the truth. This, ta-da, this is the truth. This is nature. This is physics. However, because we have collectively lived out of this... Oh, come on. I don't know why it won't. For millennia, every advancement made has been followed by an equivalent setback. Every positive thing created has been followed by an equivalent negative thing, until finally we are now in the process of possibly destroying life on an entire planet, as billions of sentient beings, including millions of human beings, needlessly live in horrific man-made misery day in and day out. This fabricated military cosmology produced the situation, then the situation reinforced the cosmology in a progressive vicious circle through the centuries. The more we biologically adapted to this insanity, the more insane became our reality. And even now, this equation is the foundation of all the artificial intelligence programming which is increasingly controlling our world, and it is the equation of zero, of death, completely unbeknownst to the left brain only geniuses doing all the programming on behalf of Father Empire. Now, the primary reason why this, as an objective scientific understanding of physical reality, has not been plainly obvious for thousands of years. The primary reason is because all of the post-natural cultures have produced high-class pedophile criminals who masquerade as ordained leaders and who trick or force the vast majority of folks into giving away the potential positivity of their era to those same criminals in the forms of free labor and disowned divinity through outright or indirect slavery and through wars, which are planned well in advance, started under contrived circumstances, sold to naive populations through heart-wrenching good guy, bad guy fabrications, supplied by those same criminals at great profit. That's profit in money, profit in land, labor, and power. And all of this paid for by both enemy, quote, populations, both enemy populations in blood and hard labor. War is a racket. General Smedley Butler, War is a Racket, by the book. So the accumulation of money has long since become an addiction for these high-class psychos. They created an entire economic system to support that addiction, and it provides all the other addictions they wallow in. Power addiction, supremacy addiction, sadomasochistic addiction, booze, drugs. Evil itself is an addiction, luxury, status, and who knows what else these people are hooked on. Their addictions progress over time, as do all addictions, making these priestly noblemen and their offspring more and more psychotic, until finally, after several demonic generations, they bring down the entire culture which they have been addictively consuming. They keep the knowledge produced by that culture for themselves, and they do it all with the active support of their clueless, drunken, illustrious military, and their distracted, sedated, overworked, underpaid, sickly, traumatized, and thoroughly propagandized populace. Or any variation on that basic theme. It's been repeating over and over for at least 10,000 years, and possibly much, much longer. So choose one. Sickness, nature. Sickness, nature. Sickness, nature. Where am I? 0. More than 0. Inaccurate, accurate. The lie, the truth. Death, life. Extinction, evolution. Addiction, happiness. Entropy, energy. Drudgery, excitement. Stagnation, cultivation. Genghis Khan, James Brown, whatever. Which do you choose? Choose one. All right, so that was the abstract psychology with a little religion thrown in. Now, I didn't find a way to insert this little blurb about the economics of this problem, so I just stuck it here at the end of the video. No segue, no nothing. So the economics of the suppression of self-sustaining energy is very simple. A motor which uses no fuel only produces profit one time for the sellers of that motor. A motor which continually uses fuel produces profit continually for the sellers of that fuel, and that profit accumulates over time, making the sellers very rich and therefore very powerful. And this is true for our entire economy. Disposable commodities drive capitalism. Any items or services that are purchased, used up, and replaced, like food or bombs or haircuts, or like fuel that burns up in a motor almost as soon as it is purchased, must be continually purchased and used up in order for our type of economy to even exist. The faster we use up whatever it is we purchase, whether it is a thing or a service, the sooner we have to replace it, and the sooner profit can be made by the seller. Selling 100 items per year to 1,000,000 customers produces 100 times more profit than selling only one item per year to 1,000,000 customers. The difference between $1 million and $100 million. And for the oil companies, fuel-less motors are the difference between zero and trillions of dollars. So even the idea of a natural, self-sustaining, eternal source of energy is a direct threat not only to the fuel industry, but also to this entire economic arrangement, and by association to this entire opposition-based culture which supports it. This is the only reason why there are no self-running motors on this planet. Has nothing to do with science or reality or what is physically possible. What is possible? Positive is greater than negative. The theory of positivity. Yes, it is possible. And that's the end of this video, the end of the 3 Theory of Positivity videos. If I ever get more time, I will make a better Theory of Energy video incorporating all these things on the first 2, and I'll use, better animation, etc. Okay, thank you very much. Please like, please subscribe, please like, please subscribe. Okay, goodbye.